Hello, all you scaredy cats and kittens, and welcome to the Two Scaredy Cats Podcast, where we talk about all things paranormal. We're your hostess with the mostest. I'm Stacy.
I'm Kara.
So, Kara, did you do anything this past weekend that interesting or anything like that?
Yeah, I stayed at a castle.
Ooh, you stayed at a castle? That's pretty cool.
Not just any castle. It was a haunted castle, supposedly.
Ooh, a haunted castle? Was it haunted by knights? Ha ha ha.
No, it was like Civil War era.
Oh, really?
Because from
That's
the 1800s.
pretty cool.
So this is Landau's Mohican Castle. You might have heard of it if you're from the area at all. But if not, basically there was a church. It was a German church. And the church, they had an argument over if they should be speaking English or German during their sermons. And they had a huge fight about this.
Okay.
And so much so. And then I
Wow.
think English won. And then the next day, the church burned down suspiciously.
Ooh,
So,
right.
and then the castle, the pool at the castle is built on top of where the church originally was.
Oh,
And
that's
the graveyard
creepy.
is just there. Cause
That's weird.
I believe it's a graveyard as if it's in where a church
Well,
was.
but there was originally a church, so
Yes,
I
I'm
guess
saying.
it would
I think
be
it's a graveyard. I think cemetery
Right.
is if it's not related to a church.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
But like
yeah.
the graves were like from the 1800s.
Really?
So
So
it's
it's a lot
very
of Civil
old.
War stuff.
Yeah, people report like seeing there was like a girl in blue, a little girl in blue. That was one of the reports. Civil War soldiers being in their hotel room, which is weird. I didn't have any of that kind of experience, but it was still just a neat place. And
It
then one of
sounds
the
like it.
a lot of the graves had like rocks on them or they were like change, like nickels and pennies and stuff sitting on top of the graves. Almost every single grave had something on it. And then there was one that had like a lot of stuff. It had like dolls. I was pretty sure it was like a child's grave, like 'cause there was dolls and like weird miscellaneous stuff like, just covered in it. It was kind of creepy, but like I didn't feel any bad vibes, but it was just a little weird, eerie, I guess. It's just like literally in the backyard of this like resort area. It's very weird.
Okay, that is weird. So,
like the
you
parking
walk around
lot.
The resort,
I literally
and,
parked.
by the way, there's a
like,
graveyard right here.
And then literally I look out my front windshield and there's just graves. And I'm like, what? It's weird.
Oh, that's weird. Huh.
Apparently the most haunted part, at least building-wise, is the pool house, which makes sense because it's literally built on top of where the church was. And there's like a tunnel, like a tunnel chute or something that people can go investigate in.
Cool. Did you find the tunnel?
We asked about it, but they wouldn't let us in.
And
And there's also
why
a
wouldn't they let
cottage
you
on the
in?
property that's haunted somehow. I don't remember. But like they've
Really?
always had issues with fires. So this place, there was part of the resort actually burned down in like 2007, I believe. This place is also on Hotel Hell. So Kitchen Nightmares actually was it Hotel Hell? I don't remember. It's one where Dave Ramsey went there and he basically like yelled at them. But there's a whole episode about it.
Really? Huh.
But it's also on Ghost Hunters. So a lot of people have been there. I don't know, it's really weird because it's like literally in the middle of nowhere in like the middle of a cornfield. The drive, like probably the last 30 minutes of the drive was just me driving through like farmland, middle of nowhere. Reception was crappy, but they did have internet, so it wasn't that bad. It was kind of cool though.
Wow.
It's expensive though.
Wow.
The rooms were like $400 or something crazy.
So that sounds cool, Kara, what you did or what you guys experienced while you were there.
Yeah, we went there at night.
Did you? Oh, that's creepy.
The
I thought we've learned we don't go places at night because good things never happen.
Yep.
Your dad and I got to go see the Trans-Siberian Orchestra the other night. That was really cool. I've never seen them like live before. Very intense. Very cool though. Very cool. And then we had
because you missed the castle adventure.
I know, but then the next night we had his holiday parties too. Also his Christmas party. So I felt like if I didn't go with him, it would look bad. So otherwise, I was going to come up. This week, my topic is on shapeshifters. Shapeshifters you can be found in folklore, mythology, or even in fiction, as we all know. And shapeshifting is basically the act of metamorphosing from one physical form to another. So basically, it's like a human being going from a human to some type of animal, and that's usually when you hear about it in stories and legends and myths, that's what it is. It's a person going into some type of animal. And this usually happens several ways, from a magical spell or a curse, from a magic power of like a talisman. Like, for example, in some Native American cultures, they believe that if you have like stone shaped like an owl or something like that, then you can shapeshift into an owl, or that's your shapeshifting power. Or the other way is by divine intervention, like that basically you were born that way, or, there were several different types of shapeshifters that I came across, and two of these are like the more popular ones that you hear about a kind of a lot in
werewolves
in today's society.
Werewolves?
Yes, werewolves is one I'll be covering, and then
Selkies?
the other one I'll be
Selkies
covering.
One?
Yes, very good. That's the other one I'm covering. So
those are like the most popular I can think of.
Yeah, I found her. I thought were famous enough to cover. So Selkies are from Ireland. Basically, it's a seal that turns into a human. So when they are in the water, they take the form of a seal, but once they come onto land, their skin will come off, and then they become human beings. Selkies can either be man or woman, but in water, they are always portrayed as being seals. They're different from mermaids, and that usually undergo a full body transformation. So their whole body shifts from being a seal to a human, or a human to a seal. Whereas mermaids, as we all know, their tails turn into human legs, and vice versa. Their legs will turn into a fin when they hit the water.
Yeah.
It's said that when they shed their skin, that they must hide it, because if they don't, that's the only way that they can get back into the water, is if they have that skin. If they don't have their skin, then the Selkies cannot leave the human world or walk on the earth. They have to stay permanently there.
Don't they forget? Don't they forget?
No, they don't forget.
I thought if their pelt gets stolen, you talking about?
Right. If their pelt gets stolen, and that's like there's like, and I'll get into that in a few minutes. If the pelt gets stolen, yes, that's a big deal, but that there's like a whole thing that goes with it, and they say that basically if they are held against their will because someone was hiding their skin, like you just talked about, so then they're not able to return to the waters, and once they can't go back into the water, they can't get into the water without not having that skin. That skin helps them turn into the seal or whatever it is they are.
Yeah.
They can only remain in the presence of humans for a short period of time, apparently. They must wait 7 years, actually, once they've been on land for a while and they have to go back into the water. They find their pelt, they put pelts, whatever you want to call it, and they put it back on. Then they're not allowed back onto the shore again for 7 years. They have to wait 7 years until they're allowed to come back. Yeah. Now that rule gets broken, though, if someone forces them to remain on in their human form because they hid their skin, like you just talked about. So if somebody hit it on them, that's broken. But if it's like, they hit it somewhere and they come back after, say they've been on land for like a couple months and they put it back on and they go into the water, then they have to wait 7 years to come back. So there's like a lot of stories out there about, long lost lovers or whatever, where they sit and wait by the ocean for 7 years, waiting for them to come back.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
In most myths and stories about the Selkies, it's usually the men are the ones who are seeking lonely humans or women. But there are some stories that actually talk about a human woman who summons the male Selkie to shore, and she does this by sending 7 tears into the ocean or the sea or wherever she's at, and then that summons them to come to her. That's really all I have on the Selkies. Like I said, it's pretty interesting, and there were several stories and myths out there about how, they would remove their pelt or their skin and they would hide it somewhere, and then they would go be human for a while, and then they'd go back into the water. Now the other shape-shifting that you've all heard about that's really popular, werewolves. Werewolves are basically bloodthirsty beasts who cannot control their lust for killing people or animals. It's said that you can be turned into a werewolf by either being bitten by another werewolf. But the deal is, in order to turn into a werewolf, the person who is a werewolf has to be in wolf form. You can't just have them doing whatever and they happen to bite you, that you're not going to, if they're in human form, you're not going to turn into a werewolf, that it has to be when they're in wolf form. Getting scratched is also another questionable way for you to turn into a werewolf. But again, it's only if the person that's scratching you is in their actual wolf form. The origin story for werewolves, though, is pretty interesting. It actually comes from Greek mythology, which I never knew this. According to the legend, a man named Lycaon had angered Zeus when he decided to serve him a meal made from human flesh. The particular human flesh that he served them happened to be a boy who had just been sacrificed. Zeus was very ticked off by this, and as punishment for what he had done, he turned Lycaon and all of his sons into wolves, and that's like the origin story for how werewolves came to be. And if you think about it and look up werewolf in a lot of different languages is like lichen, they talk about lichens. Yeah, that's where that originated from.
Lycanthrope.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Lycanthropy is what it's called, I believe.
That's correct. Term. Yeah, the actual disease, and actually I'm going to talk about that in a second.
Isn't Beowulf?
It's actually
isn't he somehow related to the?
I believe so, but I didn't
remember.
Come across that in my little stories or situations. But I did find a famous werewolf story. In fact, it's one of like the most famous one actually out of all the ones I've come across. The most famous werewolf case that I found was a guy by the name of Peter Stube. He was a wealthy 15th century farmer in Bedburg, Germany. He turned into a wolf-like creature at night and devoured the many citizens of Bedburg. Yeah, apparently the story goes he was eventually blamed for the gruesome killings of many women, men, animals, and other creatures that lived around the Bedburg area. A group of hunters saw him actually shapeshifting. So they basically, this whole case, I guess, went to trial back then, they claimed that they saw him shapeshifting. Now, some legends, or some of the stories say that he was basically, it was like a witch hunt, except they call it a werewolf hunt, because the people, nobody could really claim that. And he said he had like a special belt that he wore that helped him change his shape.
That's weird.
But people don't believe that. So that's kind of what they were saying. They said, like I said, with the help of a belt. After they killed him, they executed him, and it was pretty gruesome the way they did it too. A lot of times back then they beheaded people, and they said that when he was executed, the belt never surfaced. So they really believe that he was just a normal person, and these people were making up stories about him, because they were probably mad at him for some reason or another. You know how that was back then.
He was different or something.
Yeah, he was strange, and they just felt like they were going to go, start a bunch of hooey with him. But some of the legends out there claim that werewolf shapeshifter can shapeshift at will due to being cursed. But others say that they're transformed with the help of, like in the story I just told you about, a belt. And sometimes they're even transformed with the help of like a wolf pelt. Now, if you all recall the Brothers Grimm and their story of Little Red Riding Hood, and, the big bad wolf, there are several stories back from, like, the 15th century that talk about and it's all usually French. I've noticed the French are pretty crazy. They have these stories about these men, and they were basically serial killers that would go around killing people and claiming to be werewolves, that they worship Satan, and Satan turned them into a wolf, and they went and killed these people. And they usually killed, like, children were, like, a lot of the main things. And that is where they believe that the Brothers Grimm got their ideas of the story behind Little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf. that it was from those stories about, you know, the shapeshifters or the werewolves that people were talking about during that time. As time went on, we discovered that werewolves really are like fictional.
Yeah.
And that most of the cases that we see today are just people that have certain medical conditions that are the cause for most cases. Lycanthropy, which we just talked about, is like a rare psychological condition that causes people to believe that they are changing into a wolf. People are like believe it so much that they actually can contort.
Aren't there hairy people?
Yeah, I'm getting to that. Can actually contort themselves into being like like a werewolf, and they actually think they're like going through the change and all that. It's really crazy stuff. Food poisoning can apparently make you seem crazy enough to think that you're a werewolf. Hypertrichosis. It's a rare genetic disorder that causes excessive hair growth. Now, you'll see a lot of people like that in like back in the day in the circus. During the circus era, you see a lot of people. The Wolfman or, you know, the hairy lady. Remember, that was a big one. And stuff like that. Especially
Barnum and Bailey's.
Yeah, Barnum and Bailey. He had a lot of that in his circus. Yeah. A lot of the kind of stranger things out there. And then the rabies will also cause you to think you're a werewolf. And then lastly, hallucinations from taking certain recreational drugs and hallucinogenic herbs like mushrooms can really make people pretty wild and crazy and think that they're hallucinating. Another interesting...
How much do they take?
They must be taking a lot. I don't know, but I'm just telling you.
A lot, because I don't...
Yeah, from what I read, they say that, you know, I guess at a high enough dose, you can, you know, pretty much legit think you're a werewolf. I don't know. And they would actually, people will go around biting and scratching people too, Kara. That's a crazy thing. I mean, can you imagine somebody just running around biting and scratching people trying like if they're a werewolf? But apparently that really does happen. There was also a study done by some college or something, and they were they had like so many people in this study, and they were all basically psychiatric patients, of course, go figure. But anyway, they said that they would get more violent and more wound up whenever there was a full moon out. In fact, they said that their activity would rise almost 60% whenever the full moon was out. And they would do things, and they would basically act like wolves. They would scratch people, they would bite, they would howl, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Weird.
Yeah. And we also talked about another shape-shifting creature or myth from the Philippines 2 weeks ago on our podcast here, the Aswang. They're also a very popular shape-shifting creature that gets a lot of people talk about a lot too. And when you think of shapeshifters, to help people out, because I know we talk a lot about shape-shifting, and I didn't know, you know, if people really knew what shapeshifters were, and some of the really popular ones that you might not, well, you kind of hear about, but not too well, the werewolf you do, but not the Selkie or whatever. Right, where I know werewolves are everywhere, Harry Potter, all that, I know. But yeah, so that's all I have this week. What do you have for us this week?
So I'm going to talk about the Hat Man.
Ooh, I've never heard of this ever.
Scary. Really?
No.
I think I've like briefly mentioned it before.
Really?
So the Hat Man is a type of shadow person, shadow people, basically. I like briefly mentioned it, but we like mainly talked about what shadow people are. But this is kind of like a deep dive into one specific type of shadow people that has been a lot of reports about him.
Mm-hmm.
So the Hat Man is, like I said, he's a type of shadow person commonly seen. There's different types, obviously, but this is definitely the scariest, in my opinion.
Huh.
They mentioned that there was Hat Man sightings at...
What? No way. Stop.
Yes.
At the Waverly Sanatorium?
Remember how they talked about the shadow people on the fourth floor? There's also been Hat Man sightings there.
Oh, I didn't know about the Hat Man. I remember because they made us walk down there in the dark and it was creepy.
Yes. And it's one of when I was doing research before we went, they mentioned Hat Man sightings there.
Really?
There's been another place that we've been to that also has had Madison Seminary, I believe.
Oh, really? There's a Hat Man there? What? How did I not know about that?
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's been like most stories at least have some sort of Hat Man experience. A lot. He's very popular. He's kind of.
I have a question. Is he a very tall, like, type creature?
Yeah.
Tall and thin?
He's, yeah, tall. But, so, I'm going to get into that because it has to do kind of with Slender Man also.
Okay. You do know that we have, I need to show you that video again because I think we got it on there.
Well, okay. So, anyway, let me describe the Hat Man.
Okay, describe him. Let's see if
let's
what we saw.
Get start talking about.
Okay.
So, the Hat Man is a tall, black shadow person who wears a fedora-like hat. The hat can differ. There have been reports from all kinds of different hats, like large brim, like cowboy hats.
Mm-hmm.
But he's always wearing a hat. That is kind of like the thing about him is he wears a hat.
Huh.
He's normally about 6 to 7 feet tall. The cases he is seen alone, but there are some where there are other shadow people involved. But normally he is the one in charge of the other shadow. Typically he shows up during sleep paralysis. If you've ever heard of like sleep paralysis demon, this is
when you're like sound asleep and you can't move.
Yes, he is one of the frequent like things that people
flyers.
Spot. But he's also seen like he's a frequent paralysis demon that is spotted. But he's also been spotted not during sleep paralysis because a lot of people are like, oh, it's just sleep paralysis. But how can people like all over the world have the same exact experience? You know, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
because this is like a worldwide thing. People from all different countries have the same description of the tall, black. He's a black shadow man, and he's wearing a hat. It's very creepy too.
Yeah, it sounds creepy.
Like I said, sleep paralysis is when it's a temporary inability to move or speak while falling asleep or upon waking. Basically, your body can't move, and there are reports of him being seen not during sleep paralysis, like I said, but during the day, in like broad daylight. So it's not just like, if it was only seen during sleep paralysis, I could see where people would be like, oh, it's just a sleep paralysis thing, but there's some interesting stuff. So I watched a documentary about him on Amazon, and it was one of the scariest documentaries I worked. I don't know.
Wait a minute, what's the name of the documentary? I have to go see this now.
It's called Documented Cases of Pure Evil. It's called The Hat Man.
Let me write this down. Oh, it is called The Hat Man?
The Hat Man, Documented Cases of Pure Evil is the whole title.
Okay, hold on, wait, let me write this down.
Like I said, I rented it on our Amazon Prime, so it should be there for the rest of the day.
So we paid for it. I got it, so I'll have to go watch it since I paid for it. Okay, well then it must be on there, then I'll just watch it tonight. I'm sure Dad won't care.
It was
he probably
scary.
Doesn't even know yet.
Yeah, I know. He hasn't said anything, because I would have fessed up. Hopefully this is a podcast. But yeah, so that's the name of the podcast.
He hasn't listened to the podcast yet, so we're in the clear. But anyway,
okay. Sorry. But yeah, like I said, reports of Hat Man are like worldwide. It's not just like a localized thing. It's not like the myth started wherever. People from like every continent and all over have reports of the Hat Man. Obviously, the descriptions vary a little bit, but it's all dissimilar. He's wearing a hat. He's a shadow person. Some people just do describe seeing like red eyes, but some people don't. I think it really just depends. So this is your typical encounter. Obviously, it varies. I'll have like some descriptions of some other weird ones. So you wake up in the middle of the night to find in your doorway or by the bed what they think is a person. A dark silhouette of a man 6 feet to 7 feet tall wearing a coat or a cape and a hat. The figure radiates a malevolent energy and the people are frightened. Sometimes the entity just stares at them. And then there are other times where people reported that the Hat Man will jump on them and start attacking them, which is scary.
That is scary. Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine just like this thing just grabbing you and starts physically attacking you?
That sounds very
One
scary.
of the things about him is that they can kind of like walk through walls, but they can be physical when they want to. Like they can, obviously because they can attack you, they can become physical. But then they'll just disappear through the wall or something. So they have the ability to control they're physical or not, which is kind of scary. Like I said, the hat differs from person to person. Some say the brim is super long, some don't, but most of the time there's always a hat. Obviously there's different kinds of shadow people. This is a specific one. But there are some that don't look, But this one just has like this malevolent intent. And a lot of people say that what like most eerie about him is he just kind of watches. He'll just stand. The Hat Man is attracted to people with lots of negative emotion and can attaches to people like that.
Huh.
A good chunk of people who experience an alien abduction also experience seeing a shadow person a day or a few hours before, and someone will get abducted, and then they show up in the aftermath also. Ooh. So there's a correlation with alien abduction and the shadow.
Wonderful.
People,
so if you see a shadow person, you're going to get abducted. Nice to know. Thanks.
Which people think because of this, they theorize that the Hat Man might actually be a jinn, or like a type of jinn.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Interesting, yeah. That's a interesting theory.
That's like one of the theories, obviously, but I mean, we don't really know. A lot of people are always like, it's the devil. Which, I mean, it could be, but I don't
know. Yeah.
I feel like we don't know enough to be able to say that.
Right.
Because jinns like to piggyback off of the strong emotional energy.
Exactly, yes, yeah.
Because when you think about an alien abduction, that's a very scary thing. So I could definitely see why they would want to show up and kind of start. So this this is one of the examples, which is very interesting. So this lady went on an ayahuasca trip. I don't know if you know what that means. You know what this is a drug? It's like I thought it was funny you were talking about hallucinogens, because this is like the hallucinogen. Ayahuasca is probably the strongest hallucinogenic material, and you cannot get it at all. Is this
where you have to lick the frog?
No.
Or is that a different one?
It's like,
okay.
They're it's a root and like a leaf mixed together or something. I don't know the exacts, but when you mix them together, it creates DMT, which is like I believe it's what your brain uses to create dreams when you dream.
Oh, so it's very hallucinogenic. It makes
it's very, very hallucinogenic. And like
wait,
crazy,
what's it called again?
Ayahuasca. People go to like
in Kentucky it's like really big, like down in like Appalachian stuff.
I don't think you can legally get it.
Certain herbs. Oh.
It's similar to what the Indians use to like go on their their vision trips. It is it is very similar to that, but it is a different type of drug. But it's like has the same components, similar.
Yes, like, actually, I'm telling you.
You know what I'm talking about?
Like
it's like
show,
but they get out of a cactus in there, I believe.
I feel like there's a show on Discovery that talks about this. It's this group down in Kentucky, and they basically do it to get people off of drugs and stuff.
Yeah, that's what people, because this is such a strong thing that you can go through therapy and get over like very strong. Yes. It's that crazy of a drug that you can like basically change how your brain is rewired.
Yes, how you think. Yes, and
a lot of people who have struggled with depression and that kind of stuff, if they're like at like I've tried everything, they will go, I want to try this just because it's crazy. You will. Me and Savannah and Evan want to fly. I believe it's one of the states down by South America.
Is it New Mexico? South America. Maybe probably.
No, it's south of like we have to go out of the state, and they have like these resorts. No, listen, this is crazy. They have crazy. Resorts. They have resorts specifically for ayahuasca trips.
Stop.
And you pay like thousands of dollars. One of the podcasts
you can just go to Kentucky and get the same damn shit.
I've looked into that. It's not the same though.
So you have looked at. So you know what I'm talking about then, right?
I believe I know what you're talking about, but I believe it's the stuff that the Indians use. It's not
Native
Americans,
not
Indians. Right, Native Americans. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but it's not the same thing as what you're talking about.
But it's very similar. It's a very similar compound that also releases DMT. But it's not the same exact mix, if that makes sense.
Now I got you. Yeah, no, go ahead.
But it's it can make you like crazy, crazy drugs. Okay, anyways, regardless, we'll talk about, so this girl was taking this drug.
Okay.
And basically, you start hallucinating within 30 minutes, and I believe it's like a 4 to 6 hour trip, but basically people, they literally have hospital on standby because people can get very sick. A lot of people are
really
very sick. It's not good for you.
Oh,
whatever it is. But so this girl, let me go back to my notes. Okay, so during the trip, she got up because she was starting to get like weird vibes. This girl was a little interesting. But she said that she was on the 4th dimension. Is what she was talking about. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I bet she was.
But when she looked around, she noticed that one of the people with her had the Hat Man standing right above him.
Okay, that's creepy.
And she had seen, like, shadow people before, but she had never seen the Hat Man specifically. She thought that was weird. Which I think is interesting because, like I said before, DMT is something that stimulates the pineal gland, which controls your dreams. So it's interesting that she saw him while in a
dreamlike state, right? Yeah.
Just like when you were sleeping, you see what I'm saying?
Hallucinating,
you were in that dreamlike state, obviously, which is why people say that you have like intense. But maybe it's just because you're closer to the veil that you can see these things,
right? Yeah.
Right? Basically, I'm trying to make the connection that whatever these drugs are. When you're sleeping,
they basically are the same thing as lifting the veil when you sleep, is what you're trying to say.
Yes, it's kind of like, I'm trying to say that I thought it was interesting because that kind of like proves a connection that maybe it's
it might be another way to get the same react. You know what I mean? Maybe it's a way to study that type of stuff and see. You know what I mean?
Yes, I feel like it's a really interesting that there's so many people who have the same exact experience.
Yeah.
But they're all different. This one was just creepy, and I do not like the vibes of this next story. So there was this one case where the lady had multiple sightings, like basically since she was 4 years old.
Oh, goodness.
She was like frequent sightings. Her first sighting was when she was 4 years old, and she had a dream about running in her neighborhood at night. She felt like someone was behind her, and she didn't turn around till she was at the porch. And when she went to the porch, she saw that he was standing under the streetlight watching her. And that was just kind of like her first sort of experience with him. And she said it was her scariest experience, which I did not like this one. So one night, when she was winding down for the night, she was downstairs and suddenly felt like her daughter was in danger. She's a mom at this point.
Right.
Like her daughter was probably like one or two, like one. It was like, it's still in a crib.
Mm-hmm.
When she opened, so she felt like her daughter was in danger, so she ran upstairs to her daughter, like screaming and crying. And when she opened the door, the Hat Man was just standing next to the crib staring at the mom, not the baby.
No, I got you.
And she's described, so she's just, that would be so creepy.
That would be very creepy.
And he's
and he's just standing there, staring at you like,
by
hey,
her, the baby?
How are you? Yeah. That is creepy.
But she described, because she said she had multiple, she was one of the people that like had multiple shadow people, not just the Hat Man, but they seemed like they would, the way that she described their movements is that they would like glide and wiggle.
Yeah,
which I thought was weird.
That's kind of creepy, yeah.
They didn't move normally, which we've talked about with shadow people.
Yep.
They don't always,
They
don't walk like normal, but they have weird sort of
move like,
creepy, which is what makes it, which is the scariest part, is that they don't move like you would think. I feel like if they walked like a human, it wouldn't be as scary.
Right.
But it's the jagged movements.
Yeah.
So what really was like, oh, I don't like this, at the end of the documentary, he said during production of the documentary, his family had multiple, or his or her, I don't know if it was a...
Right, that's fine.
They,
yeah.
The sighting had multiple sightings of the Hat Man, like the entire family.
That's crazy.
Yes, during the recording, and then they also had
that.
Issues with post-production where clips would go missing,
What?
audio files would get deleted, and several like it would just crash randomly when he was using Premiere.
Oh wow.
I'm like,
that's crazy.
It's weird. Yeah, that kind of was like,
yeah,
I didn't like that.
That's a little too close to home. A little scary.
Yeah. Anyways,
that's called bringing your work home with you.
Hat Man. Yeah, I would be like, well, we're not posting this.
I was gonna say, yeah, okay, this story is gonna.
And like,
get buried.
he would just like they would just see like random stuff that like coincidental, and then apparently they're at one point when they were gonna like record an apartment, someone like had a threatened for suicide the day before, so they had to reschedule their filming in that apartment complex, which is kind of weird. Just a lot of weird stuff that was like,
right.
They do say that though, like when you dig too much into his topic. Was that Fritz?
Yes. Don't. Yeah. Thank God he can't hear. Oh my God. They've been banging on the door this whole time. They're so annoying. But anyway, that's kind of creepy. I've never heard of the Hat Man before.
But yeah, okay. So there was other stuff. Did you ever see the Babadook?
Yes, I've heard of that. Yeah.
It's similar, like the Hat Man.
Yeah.
He has the hat.
Yeah.
Very tall, scary creature.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like references or like very similar characters in like media. It's kind of creepy. So like Nightmare on Elm Street, you know?
Yeah.
He has the hat.
Yes, and the long
and then
fingers.
there's like the scenes where he has the long fingers.
Yep.
And he's very
And he's
tall.
always dark. You know what I mean? Like when he shows up like in your nightmares and stuff. Yes.
And then Slender Man, similar.
Very similar.
Obviously, that one doesn't have the hat, but I feel like
the tall and
there
the
was a lot of
weird
people
lens
saying,
and always coming
yes.
at you when you're sleeping and stuff. Yeah.
I wonder if whoever like invented Slender Man saw the Hat Man and got inspiration from it.
Who knows?
He's very, tall, black suit.
Yeah.
So most of the times they describe him as wearing like a black outfit. The only thing that's different is he's not wearing a hat,
right.
and he has like the white
right.
face. But
yeah.
But there are some descriptions.
I was just gonna say some
have
have Slenderman wearing a hat though. I've seen it, like the bowler hat or whatever they call it.
Yeah, it's why it's weird. And then it also kind of reminds me of Men in Black too.
Yes, definitely.
Because they also have the hats and the outfits, and there's just like weird connections to all the other stuff.
I know, isn't it kind of weird how it kind of all flows together a little bit? Intertwingles.
Seems like all things are connected. And then, like I said, the djinn, people think that it might be related to the djinn.
Yeah. Huh.
Just because of how universal it is. It's not, like, localized, and that's how the djinn works normally. Yep. They're all over. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I thought I'd talk about the Hat Man because, actually, why I brought it up, because I saw a TikTok chain of people talking about their experiences of the Hat Man.
Huh.
Yes. Have to go check that out. And then I was like, oh, that'd be a good topic. And, like, people, like, were stitching it with, like, their own sightings of it. And it's just creepy that there's, like, all these people who have had this similar experience. Yep. And a lot of people are like, wow, I didn't realize that was a thing other people. Mm-hmm. So now you know, like, listeners, if you have a Hat Man story, definitely tell us. Yeah, right. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, we'd like to hear. If you got a Hat Man story, she said it, contact us and let us know. We'd like to hear it. Definitely. We'll put you on. You can be a guest.
Yeah.
We're all about that.
Talk about it.
Well, I feel like both of our stories today kind of tied together because, shape-shifting kind of ties into that realm a little bit. You know what I mean? They all kind of...
Shadow people.
Yeah, kind of all go together almost. It seems like everything in the paranormal world almost all kind of is intertwined.
All has connections. Yeah. And they're all connected together.
In some way, shape, or form. You know what I mean? It's interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. It makes you realize it's a small world, and it's even a small world in the paranormal side of things.
It's all linked back to aliens.
Yep. Damn those aliens. It's all their fault for visiting us all those many millions of years ago.
Yeah, there's that the djinn were interested in. They might not be doing the abducting because, like I said, it's related to alien abducting. They're probably not the ones doing it,
but they're definitely
interested.
Oh yeah,
they could be like what's going on? Let's come. It's interesting that they come after, before, and after they'll show up.
I feel like they're just feeding off all that. If I see
a shadow man, I might get abducted by an alien.
Yeah, I feel like they just feed off of all that.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't have sleep paralysis because I would not.
Yeah, yeah, not a good thing to have.
All right.
Well,
we all good?
I think we're good for this week.
All right. Well, if you enjoyed our podcast today, follow us on Instagram at Two Scaredy Cats Podcast, and please be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps the show get discovered. Tune in 2 weeks for a new episode, and to all our scaredy cats and kittens out there, remember, curiosity didn't kill these two scaredy cats.